and this is one of the reasons that we think why Karura is so useful when it's become a project. You can unlock the utility of your Kusama token and start to borrow against your Kusama token. So this is the borrowing interface. You can see an overview of your current position. So you can see you have I have already borrowed, open a position on RMBDC. I borrow roughly $3,000 against 0.1 RMBDC. That's a little bit risky, but I mean, that's what the system allows. You can actually create loans using any sort of asset that will be available in the governance process, allowed to be used as crypto. And in this particular interface here, I have L dot, which we'll be covering later. And this will be definitely will be like Kusama, Kusama, and Bitcoin. So what I'm going to demo here is that I'm going to borrow more against my 0.1 RMBDC position here. So you can see the current Bitcoin Oracle rate is roughly that number. I'm still quite safe to borrow a little bit more against that 0.1 RMBDC. So I'm going to press generate more. I'm going to press, hey, I would like to borrow maybe $10 more. And I'm press confirm. And this is where the signing comes up. I'm going to type in my key, password, and sign the transaction. And boom, I have $10 more that I can spend. And this is how fast a project network looks like. And all this is happening on the fly for real. And you can actually see this on the block scanner that's provided by Subscan. So this is amazing, right? This is much more responsive, much more user friendly. Also, I can also repay, right? I can pay back a set of position if I think I want to reduce a little bit of risk here. I can pay back 100 a year USD. That's like reducing my calculation ratio. And any asset that will be available through the governance process can be borrowed against. Different asset would have different risk parameters. So for example, Bitcoin might have a risk parameter on the median character ratio, on the liquidation ratio, on the liquidation fee, L dots, KSM, LKSM, they might all have different ratio that be managed and governed by the governance process. So that it is essentially how you borrow against cryptos in Karura.
Yeah, so maybe one thing we can do, this concept of collateralization and taking loans is probably new to a lot of people. I know it was new to me at one point. And basically, like to make this as simple as possible, like I think many of us are aware of how like a home loan works, where typically you might put like 10% down or 20% down. That cash that you put down is what you're putting down in order to get the full loan of whatever you're getting for that house. But with the way this works in crypto, we're actually you're over collateralizing the loan. So that's why these collateral ratios are over 100%. And what you're doing, like what it really means of collateral is that you're actually taking something like Bitcoin. You don't need to sell it, but you can pull out AUSD, a stable coin, with your Bitcoin still there, not sold. And then you can take the AUSD and either you can send that to people, you can make payments, you can use that to provide liquidity within our DEX. But that's essentially what this collateral ratio means.
Yeah, essentially give you more utility to the asset that you are holding to that you might not want to sell or in short term. And for example, for Kusama, for LKSM, those are perfectly great collector for you to gain more utility out of your existing Kusama holdings. You can go long, you can go short, you can. I mean, the option is in your hands to decide how you're going to use this character to trade and ride with the market.
So what about interest? So are you paying interest when you're taking out these loans, and how does that work?
Yes, so the interest essentially is what we call the stabilization fee. If you take a loan, there will be definitely some interest occur. And this is also the interest used to manage the supply and demand of the stablecoin, as well as like the way to maintain that the stablecoin will be pegged to $1 in value. And the interest, all the stabilization fee will be managed by the governance process. Really depends on demands and supplies.
And do you know your interest rate before you take out the loan?
Obviously, definitely.
Yeah.
So let's say that we want to create a loan, want to create some LKSM as collector. I'm gonna put in maybe 5 LKSM here, and I'm gonna take in maybe like $2 loan. You can already see that the amount of the money that you can borrow, the interest rate in here, the liquidation penalty.
There
that
it
if
is,
things
yeah.
goes wrong, that where how you can. But in chance that if you overcapitalize and the position become risky, you might get liquidated. So this is the figure that you will be able to see before you create a loan. And the final confirmation stage, you will be once again. So go ahead and confirm all the numbers and press confirm. And this is how you open a long position. So I just created a loan using my LKSM and received like $2. So you can say if I now go back to the interface, I have 2 positions open, one with Bitcoin, one with LKSM. Those is like, and I borrow probably like few $1,000s against both LKSM and RMBDC.
Okay, that makes sense. And someone asked, where does that interest actually go?
Well, the interest is actually go to the treasury and being managed by the network, right? It's essentially controlled by the network for the long prosperity of the network. The interest ultimately will be the surplus within this system. And if you read our white paper regarding the decentralized sovereign wealth fund, the interest is ultimately managed by the token holders.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The liquidation concept, I think, is new to a lot of people. What happens if the token that is basically collateralized, the value drops? So liquidation in this sense does not mean that you kind of like lose everything that you put down. That's why there was a liquidation percentage. So in the example Ruitav just showed, it said 20%.
Yeah, I think to better think about liquidation is more of like if you collateralize and you borrow against your Bitcoin and then Bitcoin drop to a particular price, a fraction of your collateral will be sold. And you will see that if you were just like sold those collaterals at that price, you will still hold on to the money that you borrow against. It's just like you sold those collateral at a penalty.